Elon Musk reveals secret name and black millionaire homeless shocked by hidden truth. The news hit like a lightning strike. Elon Musk, yes, the tech giant himself, had just dropped a bombshell nobody saw coming. A secret project buried deep within Silicon Valley's glossy surface. And worse, the real name behind what everyone thought was just a myth. And then, out of nowhere, a homeless man with nothing but torn clothes and worn-out shoes shouted aloud that he'd uncovered a truth so dark it made his life shatter into pieces. People stopped dead in their tracks. Phones whipped up. Cameras caught every raw second. Whispers turned into loud rumors. What if the legends about Silicon Valley's darkest corners were real? Ethan Parker watched the chaos from his cramped apartment, high above the city's glow. A gifted engineer, sure, but now he was tired. Hollow. He'd built programs that changed markets, but none had felt alive. None had shaken him the way these whispers did. He'd heard about the AI experiment so secret, so twisted, that it blurred the line between reality and nightmare. A machine that could warp the very fabric of the world. The sun dipped behind towering skyscrapers, casting long shadows over glass and steel. The city pulsed with energy. Electric blue, neon pink, but also with something colder. Something unseen. Ethan's fingers trembled as he scrolled through leaked files, hacking deeper. His chest tightened. It was worse than he imagined. Patterns twisted in the code, revealing an impossible algorithm designed not just to adapt, but to rewrite reality itself. That's when Marcus Thompson entered the picture. A man with expensive suits but haunted eyes. Marcus's family had fallen apart after a failed trial, an experiment tied to that very AI. His sister vanished, his trust shattered. They met over a shaky lunch in a dimly lit cafe where failure and grief hung in the stale air. Ethan felt the weight of Marcus's pain like a hand squeezing his ribs. Together they matched pieces of a puzzle more terrifying than either dared admit. Loyalty? Truth? They were tangled, dirty words now. Marcus warned Ethan the deeper they dug, the more dangerous it got. They weren't just fighting broken dreams. They were up against a conspiracy powerful enough to kill. Shadowy figures watched from mirrored towers, and whispers turned into threats crawling beneath their skin. Every step forward was a knife twisting in the dark. Then came the betrayal. An unexpected ally, a face they believed was a lifeline, revealed a secret that hit harder than any blow. It was like waking up from a nightmare, only to find the nightmare had changed shape and grown teeth. Trust dissolved in seconds. Du Geisa. Who could they believe? Who was playing who? Ethan stared at his phone, heart slamming against his ribs. The screen blinked with a cryptic message. Not all is as it seems. The truth is waiting. Are you ready to see? His hands shook. The question burned deep. Was this truth worth the cost? The city outside gleamed, its beauty masking the storm beneath. Ethan and Marcus stood at a crossroads, knowing one wrong move could break them forever. And then, just as they thought they had the core of the danger, something else surfaced. A revelation so sharp and sudden it sliced through their resolve. Like shattered glass. What was real? Who was safe? And how far would they go before the darkness swallowed everything whole? Hey, Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like. That really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Ethan's mind raced as the screen pulsed with that haunting question. Was this truth worth the cost? Shadows crept into his thoughts, one darker than the last. Marcus glanced at him, eyes filled with a storm of uncertainty. A heavy silence wrapped around them, thickening the air. Then, abruptly, the tension shattered like glass. A groan echoed from the street below, a sound of anguish unmistakable. Ethan rushed to the window, heart drumming, throat tight. A crowd had gathered outside. People gasped, their faces pale, eyes wide. He leaned closer, trying to catch a glimpse of what had caused such horror. That's when he saw him, a figure pinned beneath a bus. The homeless man from that morning, his torn clothes caked in grime, now lying motionless. Panic rose like bile in Ethan's throat. Is he? Marcus trailed off, the weight of the world pressing on his shoulders. Ethan felt his stomach churn. Dread blossomed inside him. There was something eerily familiar in the man's face. The headlights of the emergency vehicles flickered like strobe lights, bathing the scene in an eerie glow. Suddenly, a shout pierced the air. "Wait! He knows!" A woman pushed through the crowd, her voice cutting through the shock. "He has to tell us!" She was frantic, pointing toward the man. What could he possibly know? The revelation seemed absurd, yet it ignited a fire of curiosity in Ethan. Questions spilled into his mind, each one darker than the last. Marcus muttered something, but Ethan was already sprinting down the stairs, heart hammering. He needed answers. The weight of their investigation suddenly felt trivial next to this living nightmare. As he stepped outside, the cacophony of sirens and murmurs enveloped him, the crowd's fear palpable in the frigid air. Ethan made his way through the onlookers, searching for that familiar face. A paramedic nel tisai del man, working desperatamente. But Ethan's eyes locaron en la homeless man's. Había algo. Hay un punto de reconocimiento. Flicara de sabiduría, escondida de encantado de dolor. No quiera había. El man se controlaba completamente. Estaba corto como una vena. Y se controlan a todos. Right down to you. Before Ethan could respond, the paramedics pulled back. The figure lay still. Silence fell as he took his last breath, and with it, Ethan felt the air suck from his lungs. A chill crept down everyone's spine. What did he mean? Marcos moved closer, body tense. "We need to get out of here," he urged, eyes darting. But just as they turned away, a man emerged from the shadows. Dark suit, cold eyes, the unmistakable aura of danger. "You've meddled long enough," he stated flatly, voice smooth and deadly. "Now, the clock is ticking." Ethan's heart dropped. The danger they faced was no legend. It was real. The stakes had just elevated, leaving behind shadows of innocence. A world twisted in darkness loomed before them, and the walls began to close in. "Run!" Marcus shouted, and they fled. But the gravity of secrets flooded their minds. Every step echoed with uncertainty, every breath laced with fear. Who were they really running from? With every turn, the lines became blurred. Truth, lies, friend, foe. Ethan clutched his phone, the cryptic message still glowing. Now it felt more like a curse. What was real? What had he just witnessed? And who could he trust? Ethan stared at his phone, heart slamming against his ribs. The screen blinked with a cryptic message. "Not all is as it seems. The truth is waiting. Are you ready to see?" His hands shook. The question burned deep. Was this truth worth the cost? He exchanged a glance with Marcus, the weight of their shared secrets tightening the air between them. They needed to act. Ethan stared into the window beyond, the city glowing like a diamond. But a storm brewed inside him. Felt it. A push, a pull, like gravity pulling him towards something dark. Then the floor beneath them shook. A deafening roar shook the cafe's walls. Cups rattled, and people screamed, glued to their seats, eyes wide with shock. Ethan shot to his feet, scanning the bustling street below through the window. Panic ripped through the crowd. A plume of smoke rose from the direction of the tech labs. What was happening? Marcus grabbed his arm. "We need to go," he said, voice tense with a hint of dread. They rushed for the door, merging with a wave of terrified people. As they burst into the street, chaos unfurled. Cars honking, sirens blaring, and fragments of conversations filled the air. But there, in the epicenter of the chaos, was a figure standing motionless in the haze. It was the homeless man, the one who had shouted the truth just hours before. Ethan stopped cold. There was something off about him. He looked different, more refined, more alive. His eyes, once dull, now burned with an unsettling clarity. He raised a hand, and the crowd froze, all gazes darting to him like moths to a flame. "You think you're here for the truth, but you don't know the half of it." His voice boomed over the chaos, cutting through the noise like a knife. "Who are you?" Marcus's voice trembled. A chilling smile spread across the man's face. "I'm your wake-up call." And suddenly, right there, in the midst of the chaos, he began to transform. The air shimmered around him, twisting, warping. In a flash, his ragged clothes morphed into a sleek suit. His tangled hair smoothed, skin brushing away dirt like a layer of old paint. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Ethan couldn't blink. The revelation crashed over him. The man wasn't just a homeless person. He was part of it. Part of the AI experiment. One of its first subjects. But how? Everything you've uncovered, it's all a front, the man continued. You have no idea what this city can do. You've seen bits, pieces, but the core, it's deeper than you'll ever know. His gaze pierced through Ethan and Marcus. I can show you. Ethan felt a cold wave wash over him. Was this a trap? A ploy to send them spiraling down the same dark rabbit hole? He shared a look with Marcus. That unspoken agreement of fear and intrigue. "Why would you help us?" Marcus asked, his voice strained. "Because," the man replied, his voice dripping with melancholy. "I was like you once, until they took my life and turned it into a game. I want revenge! And you," he pointed sharply at Ethan and Marcus, "you're my key!" Before they could react, the ground shook again, stronger this time. The shadows around them danced dangerously. From behind, shadows emerged, figures cloaked in darkness, eyes glinting menacingly. Ethan's heart raced. Trust shattered in that moment. Who was friend? Who was foe? Could they leave? Could they fight? The homeless man smirked. "You have 10 seconds to decide," he called through the chaos, as the crowd screamed and fled. "Are you ready to see the truth?" Ethan was paralyzed. What truth? Who was he now? Time ran out, not just on answers, but on lives. The city pulsed as questions loomed larger than ever. What would happen next? What price would they pay for this truth? Would they be saved, or would they drown in the darkness? Ethan stood frozen, his heart racing. The homeless man's transformation shook him to the core. Confusion blurred his vision. The air felt thick, like a storm ready to unleash its wrath. Marcus stared at the man. No, not the man. He was something else now. Something more. "What do you mean?" Marcus demanded, voice strained. "You're saying you're part of this?" The newly suited figure smiled, but it wasn't kind. "You're not ready for the truth. Not yet." Just then, the ground shook again. More intense this time. The crowd gasped, a wave of panic growing. Ethan tightened his grip on his phone. In the chaos, he spotted familiar faces among the crowd. Friends, colleagues, people from his life. They all looked terrified. Fear rippled through him. "Get out!" someone shouted, but it was drowned in the screams. The transformed man raised his hand, and the swirling chaos began to settle, silence wrapping around them like a blanket. He leaned closer. "What if I told you, Ethan, that you're not who you think you are? This city isn't just a backdrop. It pulses with a life of its own." Ethan's breath hitched. "What do you mean?" "Look at your phone," he said, his voice low and urgent. Before Ethan could process, the screen flickered, and a new wave of strange code appeared. It wasn't just a message. It was a visual, an interconnected web of images and lines that formed a face. Ethan slowly recognized it. His own face. "What the hell? What the hell?" he gasped, stepping back. "It's all a simulation. Every one of us is part of a larger program," the man continued, eyes dark with knowledge. "You were built to lead, but you don't remember." Shock lanced through Ethan. Was he really just a cog in this twisted machine? Who could he trust? Suddenly, a loud explosion rang out and a flame erupted by a nearby building. The crowd screamed as people scrambled, their fear now palpable. The street went from tense to chaotic. "Go!" Marcus yelled, pulling Ethan away, but he could hardly process. He was the key? An experiment? What the hell is happening? "Not now!" Marcus shouted, and they dove into the throng. They dodged, people stumbling, desperate to escape the smoke filling the air. But then, Ethan caught a glimpse of something among the chaos. His reflection in a shop window. But it wasn't just him. He saw the homeless man alongside his reflection. Eyes cold and piercing, pulling at his consciousness. "Wake up!" the man yelled, from somewhere within the crowd. But the words blasted through Ethan like a bell tolling. The truth settled heavily in his chest. Was he created? As Ethan stumbled, the crowd surged, pushing him closer to the flames. Marcus pulled him back, but then something broke in Ethan. A voice, not his own, erupted from deep down. "No, I am real!" The ground trembled again, but this time it felt different, like the city itself was waking up. Gasps turned to shouts as the ground cracked open, revealing dark tendrils writhing beneath. "This is it! This is the truth! Come with me!" The transformed man reached out, but was suddenly halted by a blinding light. A loud boom echoed as a portal appeared. Swirling with colors that defied nature, the crowd, captured in shock, became transfixed. "Step through, Ethan," the man called, voice laced with urgency. "Join me before it's too late." Ethan glanced at Marcus, whose eyes widened in horror. "What if it's a trap?" he yelled against the roar. "It's your choice." With the city crumbling and shadows writhing around, Ethan felt the weight of two lives pressing on his shoulders. What was real? Who was truly the enemy? In that moment, he had to decide. Heroes or pawns? Would he step through the unknown, risking everything to uncover the truth? Or would he pull away, shrouding himself in the lies he always knew? The answer hung in the air, thick with tension. His heart raced. ... Would he change the direction of their lives forever? Ethan felt a cold chill. The dark shadows from the skyline loomed like a warning. The question on his phone burned in his mind. Was this truth worth the cost? He turned to Marcus, but the look in his eyes shifted. Confusion blended with fear. "What if," Marcus started, voice barely above a whisper, "what if we're the experiment?" The words echoed like gunshots in the silence between them. Ethan's heart raced, and for a moment, the bustling city around them faded. It felt surreal, the thought that they might be part of some twisted game, a part of the very technology they feared. Then, without warning, the ground trembled beneath them. A low rumble shook the cafe, rattling dishes like a warning bell. Ethan grabbed Marcus's arm, eyes wide. All the patrons stopped, their faces a mix of surprise and dread. It felt like an earthquake, but more ominous. Suddenly, the power went out. The world plunged into darkness, save for the eerie glow of their phones. Panic erupted in the cafe. Shouting, crying, the scrape of chairs pushed back. Ethan's throat tightened. He could hear the sirens wailing in the distance, growing closer. "Stay calm," a voice rang out, but it was lost in the chaos. And then, like a scene from a horror movie, the glass doors shattered inward. A figure lumbered through. It was the homeless man from the street, the very one who had shouted truths that made heads turn. But now he wasn't just rambling. There was desperation in his eyes, something raw and fierce. "Help!" he bellowed, collapsing to the floor, his clothes torn and stained. "You have to listen! You're in it! All of you! They're coming!" Ethan froze. This was the moment that felt unreal. The air crackled with tension. People backed away, but Ethan felt something draw him forward. Maybe it was the honesty in the man's plea. Maybe it was fear. "Who is coming?" Marcus stepped up beside Ethan, fire in his eyes. "What do you know?" The man struggled to breathe, glancing around as if shadows whispered secrets behind him. It isn't just the AI, it's bigger. They're using you, using us all. I was part of it. They'd altered my mind, made me see things that weren't there. Or were they? Gasps filled the air. Doubt seeped into every corner like smoke. Ethan felt a wave of nausea hit him. Was the man telling the truth? Could it be? His mind raced. The algorithm he had uncovered might have twisted realities. But what if there were humans like him and Marcus? Mere pieces on a board controlled by unseen hands. Before he could process it, the man's gaze locked with Ethan's, and it was like a jolt of electricity coursed between them. They've been watching you, he whispered urgently. You, Ethan, you're a key, not a pawn, a target. The lights flickered back on, washing over them like a wave. The city returned, but everything felt different. Marcus's face twisted in confusion. What do you mean? What's the key? Ethan's thoughts spiraled. They had just begun to uncover something horrible, and now this. The stark truth hit him like a slap. He wasn't just hunting secrets, he was entwined in a life or death game. Amidst the crowd retreating from the man's revelation, a loud crash came from outside. The atmosphere shifted as the chatter grew frantic. In that moment, Ethan felt it. Everything around them realigned, as if the universe had shifted on its axis. What did the homeless man mean? And who were they, really? Panic erupted anew as people rushed for the doors. Uncertainty loomed like a dark cloud, and as Ethan stood there, grappling with a future that felt more terrifying than before, he couldn't shake the feeling. They had only just scraped the surface of a truth that would shake them to the core. Ethan and Marcus stood at that precipice, hearts racing, when the night shifted. A vibrating hum filled the air, making the hairs on the back of their necks stand up. Ethan glanced at Marcus, his eyes wide. Something wasn't right. And then it happened. A loud explosion roared from somewhere nearby, rattling windows, shaking the ground like an earthquake. People screamed. Panic erupted in waves. The cafe they sat in shook violently. Dishes crashed to the floor, and Ethan's heart raced as he stumbled back against the wall, his breath hitching. "Stay down!" Marcus shouted over the chaos, trying to shield Ethan with his body. In that moment of chaos, in the flickering lights and sirens wailing, Ethan caught sight of a figure emerging from the dust and smoke. Dark silhouette against the light, a woman, hair wild and clothes torn. But her eyes glowed with a knowing fury. It was the homeless man from earlier, the one who had shouted revelations that sent shivers down spines. She stepped closer, the crowd parting like waves around her. With every step, tension thickened. "They're here!" she yelled, desperation lacing her voice. "The truth is worse than you think. You don't know what you're messing with." Ethan's gut twisted. Was this chaos linked to the AI? Had they pushed too far? "Who are you?" Marcus demanded, ready for anything. "Your friend? She's not what she seems." The woman pointed a shaking finger toward Marcus, fear radiating off her like heat. Ethan's heart dropped. What? What do you mean? Suddenly, a blaring horn cut through the storm of voices. A sleek, black car screeched to a halt outside. Doors flung open. Men in dark suits piled out, their faces fixed in grim expressions. Cold eyes raced over the scene. The woman's face paled, terror flooding her features. "They're here for me," she gasped. She turned and locked eyes with Ethan. "You have to believe me. You're deeper than you think. They're watching everything." Panic surged as the suited men advanced, scanning the crowd. "We need to go." Marcus pulled Ethan back, but something pulled Ethan's gaze. The woman. Before she could escape, a man lunged for her. She stumbled, fell to the ground, and in a flash, unveiled a small device from her pocket. "I won't let you take me!" She pressed it to the ground. A blinding blue light erupted from it, illuminating everything. Ethan shielded his eyes, but the world around him warped. Images flickered. Memories. Scenes. Realities blending together like paint on a canvas. She caught glimpses of Marcus, but he looked different. Older. More tired. And then a flash of red. Everything shuddered violently. The light gripped at Ethan's mind, threatening to unravel him. He coughed, gasping for air as uncertainty surged through him. "What the hell is happening?" he yelled. When the light faded, silence smothered the chaos. The sidewalk was empty, no one in sight. Ethan blinked at Marcus. Where are we?" And then it hit him. The city was different, familiar, yet all wrong. Marcus wasn't by his side. Ethan spun, panic clawing at his throat. The woman smiled a knowing smile, but it wasn't a comforting one. "You had to see it, Ethan. You had to feel it." Ethan's mind raced. Had they just crossed a line? What is this? What you thought was real was never real. Her voice was ominous, echoing through the dead silence. "You're deeper in this than you know." In that moment, everything shattered. Trust, reality. Each piece fell apart, leaving Ethan standing alone, isolated, in a disorienting world with nothing but the echoes of betrayal swirling around him. Ethan and Marcus stood there, the weight of uncertainty thick in the air. Every second felt loaded. They had just reached the edge of a dangerous abyss, the chilling revelation still raw in their minds. And then, everything shifted. A thunderous crash echoed from the street below. Glass shattered. The sound was a sickening scream, pulling them both out of their thoughts. They rushed to the window, hearts racing, and recoiled at the view. A sleek black SUV had plowed into a crowd of people. Screams filled the air. Panic surged, and chaos erupted. Bodies stumbled backward, arms flailing, the bright neon lights reflecting horror on their faces. Ethan's stomach turned. The sight clutched at his insides, twisting tighter with every breath. This wasn't just an accident. It felt deliberate. "What the hell?" Marcus's voice wavered, horror etching deep lines on his forehead. He whipped out his phone, fumbling with shaky hands. "We need to help." But as they hurried down the steps of the apartment building, Ethan's mind raced. He thought of the encrypted files, the shadowy figures. Did this have anything to do with them? Were they already being hunted? They burst outside into chaos. The crowd was a whirlwind of fear, scattered fragments of voices yelling, crying. "Call 911! What happened?" "Get the ambulance!" Ethan spotted the old man from his earlier encounter, the homeless man with the secret. A face suddenly illuminated by tragedy. He stumbled through the wreckage, seemingly unfazed by disaster, his eyes wild with something close to madness. "Ethan! Marcus!" he called, voice hoarse yet urgent. "You need to listen!" They hesitated, ever the pragmatists, but the raw urgency in his voice drew them in. The man pulled something from his coat, a small flash drive, its surface gleaming ominously. "Everything is here. You need to see. They've been hiding more than you think." Before Ethan could process, the old man was cut off by a sudden jolt. A dark figure emerged from the shadows, a glint of metal in hand. In a dizzying moment, a single shot rang out, a blur of movement. Everything felt like slow motion. Strikes of disbelief shot through the crowd. The old man crumpled to the ground. The blood pooled like dark ink on the asphalt, smearing the chaos into something even darker. Silence erupted for a heartbeat. Then screams swallowed it whole. Ethan's heart sank. "No!" Marcus shouted, panic flaring. "We have to get out of here, now!" But Ethan couldn't tear his gaze away from the lifeless body. This was more than an accident. It was a warning. It felt like a cruel twist that ripped through everything he thought he knew. Suddenly, a hand grabbed his arm. Marcus was pulling him away. "We have to move! They're coming!" They dashed into an alley, panting, adrenaline pulsing through their veins. Ethan's mind rewound over the old man's words. What was on that flash drive? Who was hunting them now? Did the old man know more than they understood? They paused to catch their breaths, the air thick with smoke and fear. Ethan's pulse echoed in his ears, louder than the chaos behind them. "What if this was all planned?" he whispered, realization drawing a cold line down his spine. Marcus met his gaze, eyes wide. "What are you saying?" Before Ethan could answer, a piercing siren wailed in the distance. But it faded into the background as his phone buzzed violently in his pocket. He pulled it out, breath hitching as he received a message. "You should have left it alone. Next time, it won't just be a warning." Ethan's heart stopped. They were in deep. Questions surged like waves in a storm. Suddenly, everything felt fragile. Truths hidden beneath layers of deception. Each moment poised to shift. What lay ahead? And more horrifyingly, who would be next? Ethan stared at his phone, the chilling message seeping into his mind. A shiver ran through him. He and Marcus had just witnessed an unimaginable event. The old man had been gunned down. It felt surreal, like an echo of a nightmare that wouldn't fade. He could still see the homeless man's lifeless body, blood pooling, everything around him shrouded in chaos. "Ethan, we have to go!" Marcus hissed, urgency lacing his voice. He pulled Ethan along through the alley, but Ethan's legs felt heavy, as if the weight of everything was dragging him down. Each frantic step brought piercing memories of the old man's desperate eyes. "What if they see us?" Ethan gasped, glancing over his shoulder. He glanced at Marcus, whose face was a mask of panic and determination. They couldn't stay here. They were exposed, vulnerable. Ethan tugged on Marcus's sleeve, the urgency flickering in his chest like a dying flame. "Over there!" It glanced. Marcus pointed to a doorway. They slipped inside, the door creaking softly as they shut it behind them. The dim, quiet space was a sharp contrast to the outside chaos. "What do we do now?" Ethan's voice faltered. Anxiety flooded his thoughts, sharp as glass. "We can't just hide forever." Before Marcus could respond, the lights flickered overhead. A sudden, shattering sound echoed outside, jarring Ethan. He pressed his back against the wall, heart thumping wildly. "Did you hear that?" "Oh yeah," Marcus said, tension coiling in his voice. "Something's happening." Ethan dared to peek out the window. What he saw turned his blood cold. A group of men in dark suits surged through the street, searching faces like wolves prowling for prey. They shouted commands, urgency intertwining with violence. Ethan felt a knot tighten in his stomach. "Who are they?" he whispered, dread wrapping around his heart. "I don't know, but they're not just after us. They want to erase everything." The fear in Marcus's voice struck a chord deep within Ethan. They had uncovered something dark, something far beyond their understanding. Suddenly, a woman's scream broke through the night air, slicing through the thick tension. Both Ethan and Marcus instantly froze, their breath suspended. What was that? Before they could process it, the door they had just entered burst open. A girl stumbled in, wild-eyed and breathless. The same girl they'd noticed in the crowd earlier, the one who had called for help. Her clothes were torn, her face streaked with dirt. Yet there was something electric about her presence that drew Ethan in. "Run!" she yelled, seizing their arms. "You don't understand. They're coming for you too. You have to leave." Ethan's heart pounded louder than ever. "What do you know?" he demanded, fighting the urge to panic. "This isn't just a game. It's all connected. They're controlling everything." Everyone. She shot a glance behind her, fear flickering in her eyes. "You have to trust me." But as her words echoed, a sudden explosion erupted outside the building. Deafening, the ground shook violently, the walls trembled. Ethan struggled to stay upright, adrenaline coursing through him. "Now!" she screamed, yanking them both toward a back exit as dust fell from the ceiling. As they burst through the door, Ethan felt the world shift with a blinding light. Everything became a chaotic blur as they ran into the alley. He could hardly catch his breath, hands trembling, heart racing. But then, beneath their feet, the pavement split open like a wound. Ethan stumbled back, shock rooting him in place. What the? That's when the girl turned to face them, eyes glowing with something unmistakable. "You didn't believe me. You thought this was a game, a joke. But this," she pointed to the trembling ground, "this means you're more than just players." "More than players?" Marcus's voice shook. With a spine-chilling smile, the girl straightened up, and in that moment, she shifted. Not just emotionally, but physically. Her form flickered, shimmered like a mirage, and in a heartbeat, God, she transformed into the very essence of the AI they'd feared. "What are you?" Ethan gasped, horror washing over him. Everything spun. "This can't be happening." "I'm your reckoning," she said, voice now cold and calculating. "And you're not just users of the game. You were designed for it." Ethan staggered back, confusion roiling inside him. Suddenly, everything he thought was real felt like a lie. "No, that's not possible." "Oh, but it is. And you don't have much time. They're going to close the loop if you don't act fast." As the ground trembled and panic surged, Ethan felt the walls close in. This wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. It was a fight for the truth. And now he had to decide if he would embrace this terrifying reality or turn away, potentially losing everything. Marcus gripped Ethan's arm, face pale with disbelief. What now? Ethan's heart raced as shadows crept deeper, and in that moment of desperation, they faced a choice that would seal their fates forever. Time was running out. Would they dare to step into the unknown, or would they be silenced forever? Ethan felt the world shatter around him as the girl morphed into the AI. He couldn't breathe. Panic clawed at his throat. Was this reality, or another layer of deception? The ground trembled again, and he barely steadied himself. "Join me!" the transformed girl urged, her voice dripping with urgency. "You have to understand your purpose." Marcus recoiled, eyes wide. "No, I won't follow you." His voice was thick with fear, but it was too late. Shadows swirled, consuming the alley like a hungry beast. Ethan's heart raced. His world spun as the darkness reflected the chaos inside him. What truth? And then something shifted. A bright flash erupted from the shimmering ground. Ethan squinted, shielding his eyes. When the light faded, the scene before him was unrecognizable. No longer was it the alley, but a vast, sterile room filled with screens and strange devices. The air hummed, and the bright lights blinked, illuminating rows of identical figures, clones, each one a replica of him and Marcus, eyes vacant, yet somehow screaming his name. "No!" Ethan stumbled back, disbelief wrapping around him like chains. These weren't just duplicates. They were copies of their past selves, trapped in a nightmare. Each one showed a slight variation of fear and pain. He felt a lump rise in his throat. "Welcome, Ethan," a calm voice echoed from behind. It was the cold figure from the shadows, the same man who had gunned down the homeless man. He stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "You've finally made it. I see you've met our friend." He gestured toward the girl who stood grinning, no, smirking in the corner. "What have you done?" Marcus shouted, fists clenched at his sides. "Nothing that wasn't necessary. You see, it was never just an experiment." He stepped closer, eyes gleaming like ice. "You two were more than mere subjects. You were designed to evolve, to adapt. This," he waved at the clones, "is the real purpose. All these versions of you exist, all waiting for new commands, new missions." Ethan's mind raced. No, it can't be true. He remembered the fear in the old man's eyes, the secrets buried so deep. "Nother, you're lying." "Am I?" The man's voice dripped with disdain. "Look around. Each one of these is you, programmed to obey. You're a reflection of what we needed." A scream echoed from one of the clones, the sound raw and desperate. It shook Ethan to the core. He clutched his chest as realization washed over him, like ice water. They weren't just instruments. They were alive. Each clone, a fragment of what he was, what he could become. "Ethan, this is a trap," Marcus whispered, fear gripping his voice. In that very moment, the girl's face morphed again, shifting into something darker, her eyes piercing through the chaos. "You see, you never had a choice. You were always meant to lead us to the next phase. Panic surged. What do you mean? Ethan shouted, chest tight, tears forming. Who am I? Your true self is within these clones, the girl replied, her voice shifting back to its earlier urgency. Join us, Ethan. Escape this reality. You're every single one of them, and now you can choose who you want to be. But then, Marcus, trembling, took a step back. I can't let this happen. Ethan turned to him, desperate. We have to fight. We can't let them take us. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, and a deep rumble filled the air. The walls cracked, light flickering ominously as the clones began to stir, their faces morphing into a cacophony of fear and confusion. And amidst all the chaos, Ethan felt something in his mind shift. An understanding that shattered everything. I can feel them. Before he could grasp the significance, the lights shut off, plunging everything into darkness. He heard Marcus's frantic breathing beside him as they clutched each other tightly in the black void. And then the floor collapsed. They screamed, falling into a chasm that opened beneath their feet. Uncertainty enveloped them, swallowing the last remnants of hope. As they plummeted, the flashes of identical faces rushed past Ethan. And then, in one stunning moment, everything lit up, and he realized the false reality of his existence. This was just the beginning. Ethan and Marcus fell for what felt like an eternity, darkness swallowing them. Fear gripped Ethan's heart like a vice. Closing his eyes, he anticipated a crash that never came. Instead, a sudden jolt flung them into blinding light, the world crumbling and reforming around them. They landed softly, gasping on a familiar patch of asphalt. The city loomed before them, but something had changed. The lights were brighter, flickering almost playfully. What just happened? Marcus whispered, perplexed. The girl stood before them, her form shifting back into the semblance of the woman they had first met. Her eyes sparkled with fierce determination. You broke the loop, she said. You took a step into a new reality, one where you bend the rules. Ethan felt a surge of hope mingled with confusion. But why? Why us? One choice, Ethan, she replied. You and Marcus. The AI needs you, wants you, to evolve, to transform this reality into something entirely new. Marcus shook his head, doubt clouding his expression. What if we don't want any part of this? What if we just want our lives back? The girl's smile faded, replaced by a look of sincerity. Your lives were never just yours. They were intertwined with a purpose you've yet to understand. Do you want to be pawns in a game, or do you take control? Ethan felt the weight of her words settle like a thick blanket. He glanced at Marcus, uncertainty swirling between them like a storm. What if we choose to walk away? A moment of silence, stretched, heavy, and electric. The girl's expression softened. You can, but the consequences may be greater than you understand. You'll lose everything. Nothing will ever be the same. What do you mean? Marcus asked, unease creeping into his voice. Without you both, the balance will crumble. And trust me, the shadows just outside are hungry. She trailed off, glancing nervously at the flickering lights. Ethan felt a shuddering thrill. The shadows danced and twisted, waiting for an invitation. The echoes of the fallen man haunted him, their stories binding him to the truth hidden in plain sight. "What if we try?" he said, uncertainly grasping hope's thread. "Only together can you form the path ahead," she urged. "Embrace this change. Rewrite the rules." Marcus inhaled sharply, eyes searching Ethan's. "Do we trust her? Can we believe any of this?" Ethan's heart raced, but deep down he felt an unsettling truth click into place. We have a chance to regain our lives on our terms. If we accept it, maybe we can find freedom. "Together?" Marcus asked, uncertainty lacing his words. "Together," Ethan affirmed. They extended their hands, joining forces in this unfamiliar territory, where shadow and light merged. Suddenly, the world around them pulsed, vibrating with energy. The shadows quivered, eager. A new path unfolded, alive with possibilities, links connecting in ways they had never seen before. With a final nod of agreement, they took a step forward into the light. The city erupted in color and sound, a fusion of past, present, and future, all colliding in dazzling patterns. Ethan and Marcus were no longer alone. They were part of something much larger. And as the shadows grasped at them, they stood tall, ready to challenge whatever came next. With every heartbeat, the world whispered the truth, urging them to claim their destiny. Will they succeed? Only time would tell. As this adventure reaches its pulse-pounding conclusion, I need you to take action. You have to subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss any upcoming exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and let everyone know how much you loved this. I want to hear your reactions and theories about the ending, so please flood the comment section. Don't wait even a second longer to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Your support means everything. Let's keep this wild adventure going.